No matter what industry you're in, energy runs your business and energy costs affect your bottom line. Investing in solar panels, solar water heaters, or LED lighting and other energy efficient appliances provides considerable cost savings for your business.
Here at Black Orchid Resort, we utilize a lot of energy. It became extremely helpful to us to be able to install solar panels thanks to the low interest loan from the DFC.
The Development Finance Corporation DFC is now offering loan financing for businesses to invest in renewable energy and energy efficiency. With an affordable interest rate of 6%, businesses can now save money and increase competitiveness by reducing long-term operational costs.
This has saved us at least 80% of our diesel costs, which is a big saving for us. We can now use that money to invest in other projects.
Contact DFC to find out how your business can start saving money by investing in renewable energy and energy efficient technologies today. DFC, giving power to our people. Apply today and save tomorrow.
Okay, first I wanted a song that would transcend, every aspect. That it didn't matter what part of the world you came from, you would be able to relate to this song. So that was one, and the next thing was finding a topic to sing about. What Daniel means, this is our time, and our time to shine, to do great things, and. I said I wanted to sing about, everybody have them turn now, everybody have them day. Some of them really make much of it, while some make it slip away because a lot of times you have the opportunity to do something, but you put it aside. You want to wait till tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to say time run up on you, can't get it done. So, and I also spoke about being a part of being on the Belizean music team. The team that our great Andy Palacio was on, great Paul Naber was on. Because a lot of people used to tell me after Andy passed, they say, why don't you be the lead vocalist for the collectives? I told them, with respect, I love what the collectives are doing. I love what Andy, because he's one of my idols, musical idols. I want to be on the, I want to walk in your footsteps, but in my own shoe. I want to be part of that team that took Belizean music or Garifuna music to the world, but I want to do it my way. I wouldn't want to walk in a size 14 shoe and I'm a size 12. It will be uncomfortable. So let me, yes, that's in the song. I want to walk in your footstep, but in my own shoe. I got me size 12 and I got some walking to do. I want to walk comfortable. I want to do what I do in a way that I won't regret doing it. So I want to be on the same team, but doing it my way. Not doing, yes. So I did it my way. I did it my style, but still as part of that Belizean team. This is Super G the General. Yo, I want to thank all my fans for watching my video over 1 million times on YouTube. Please tune into Belize Travel Cast to check out my interview on Belizean music.
Do you need custom rubber stamps for your business? Get yours in 1 hour from GITS Office Supplies. Choose from different sizes and colors. Order online today at www.gits.bz, home of the 1 hour stamps.
When it comes to your finances, peace of mind is invaluable. We need to be confident that our finances are safe and secure. Atlantic Bank's EMV cards, also known as chip and contactless cards, are designed to provide you the peace of mind you need. These cards have an embedded chip that generates a unique security code each time you perform a transaction, making it virtually impossible to counterfeit or copy your card. How to use your card. Using the chip and contactless card is easy, convenient, and secure. Instead of swiping your card, the chip and contactless card can be used in 2 ways. For chip transactions, insert your card into the POS terminal face up, chip first. Follow the prompts displayed on the POS terminal screen, remove your card from the POS terminal, and sign the receipt. Contactless transactions. Look for the contactless symbol at checkout. Tap your card on the POS terminal. Wait for the beep to confirm your payment and go. It's that convenient while still providing you with the safety and security you need. Atlantic Bank chip and contactless cards. 1 card, 2 ways to pay. Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Do you need custom rubber stamps for your business? Get yours in 1 hour from GITS Office Supplies. Choose from different sizes and colors. Order online today at www.gits.bz, home of the 1 hour stamps.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this month's webinar session brought to you by the Belize Hotel Association in collaboration with Belizeing.com. My name is Karina, and I'll be your host along with Simone from the Belize Hotel Association. Today, we have a very interesting and insightful session for you. Our presenters for today will be Mr. Armin Cansino from the DFC, Ms. Sheryl Anderson from the QSSI, which is the Quality System Solution and Initiatives, and Dr. Leroy Almendarez from Beltraide. We also have Dr. Senator Hon Carla Barnett, Ms. Judith Leslie from DFC, and Mr. Ted Tejada from the BHA as guests on our list of panelists for the question and answer section. Today's topic is risky business, risky planning, and financial recovery post-COVID-19. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to highlight the Belize Travelcast. Belize's top listened to travel-related podcast is ranked #1 for the category Belize, Place, and Travel on all major streaming platforms. Our most recent release is with Mr. Lensford Martinez, better known as Super G, and he talks about Punta rock music in Belize. So if you're interested in listening to those episodes, feel free to check it out at BelizeTravelcast.com. We also have sponsorship packages available for the Belize Travelcast. We have openings for our premium and standard packages, as well as the 5 new advertising options. By being a sponsor or advertiser, you're able to reach over 10,000 podcast listeners in the US and Canada. If you're interested in signing up for these sponsorships and advertising packages, or would like to get more information on them, feel free to visit the BelizeDigitalMedia.com or email us at podcast@Belizeing.com. On some housekeeping notes, if you have any questions for our presenters throughout the presentation, feel free to leave them a message in the chat, and we'll answer them after the presentation is over. If you're experiencing any connectivity issues, please try to reconnect using the red reconnect button located above the slides. And if that doesn't work for you, then try to close all the tabs and restart your browser or your device. If all else fails, recording will be emailed to you at the end of the day, and the recording will be available for 48 hours. I would now like to pass it on to Simone for NABHA membership announcements.
Hi. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you and welcome. We're glad to have you in attendance. I would also like to add to what was said before that we actually have Miss Natalie Ewing-Goff in-house as well, and she will be commenting on the resilience strategies that the DFC has in place. So we are looking forward to a very, very informative, exciting, and a fun session with lots of questions and answers. We know that you have very many concerns and we would like to address these here today. The topic of the session is risky business. We are going to be exploring we're going to be exploring risk. We're going to be exploring the opportunities for financial recovery. DFC will begin to present on the financial plans that they have in place, the facilities that they have in place. We will also be joined by Ms. Judith Leslie, who is the credit manager for the Belize office. So if you have any credit concerns, please feel free to ask, all right? At this point in time, I'm going to hand over to Mr. Armin Cansino. He is the manager for the Central Region, and he actually is the tourism guy when it comes to DFC and credit facilities. So, Mr. Cansino.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Just a minor correction. Ms. Judith Leslie, my colleague, is the manager of credit delivery, and she's based in Balmopan, and she supervises the branches. I am the branch manager for Belize, the Belize City, or the Central Region, which encompasses the Belize District, including San Pedro branch. So to get right into it, I'll be sharing and discussing our tourism working capital loans that has come about due to the situation that we're now in. So briefly, I will speak about what the program is, what it covers, who is eligible, the lending criteria, how to access, and what is needed to apply, and whatever other financing that we may be able to provide in other sectors. So the program was created, like I mentioned, to assist Belize's tourism sector operators that have been adversely affected by this dreaded COVID-19 pandemic. Funds made available have been $10 million for working capital needs. The program has a wonderful interest rate of 6% on the reducing balance.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Right now we have 5 flights available if we were to open in September, out of 111 flights that we were having before September.
I think Mr. Tejada needs to mute his mic.
What I don't think people get, right, is that there's no period in 2020 that we will get back to where we were.
Hello?
I don't think he's on.
So as I was saying, the interest rate on the program, on this loan program, is at 6% on the reducing balance. As a matter of fact, all of the loans from DFC are on the reducing balance. The maximum loan size is $1 million, Belize, and no more than 25% of the available resources is to be entertained at that level. The program also has up to 1 year grace period on the principal and interest. Excuse me, Simone, I keep hearing an echo. Up to 1 year grace period on the principal and interest is also a part of the loan program, and a maximum repayment term of 5 years. So what does it cover? When we say working capital needs, so that includes salaries, wages, utilities, supplies to keep your organization, your business going. Fuel, if you're, the need for vehicles or perhaps generators if you're offshore. Hopefully you can start thinking about renewable energies as well. And we will also discuss that further down. Property maintenance, keep your properties, paint up, fix up the place, kind of thing. Financing of payables, whatever payables may be outstanding and that you need to be paying. Insurance coverage, especially in this hurricane season. Another storm possibilities, fire, etc., that we can avoid. Insurance coverage, health and safety standards to maintain your staff up to date with health training and all that, food preparation, etc., that is required. Who is eligible? Well, Belizean nationals, residents, companies with a minimum of 51% Belizean shareholding. Non-nationals is also a sector that can apply at DFC, but they must be in line with the non-national policy. And we can also always share more on what that policy is on a one-on-one basis. It's also available on our website. The business must also be operational for at least 3 years and must have sound financial performance. The business must be directly related to the tourism sector, operational prior to COVID-19 and in good standing with their financial institutions. Sound financial performance, and also we will be doing our due diligence and monitoring each application with approved AML or anti-money laundering and countering the financing of terrorism. So we will do our risk assessments, including risk ratings on all projects or all requests that come to us. The lending criteria also includes that a minimum of 30% of your workforce must be retained, depending on the scale and the business type and the efficiency of your operations. The loan funds will also be disbursed on an adherence to an implementation plan. So what that means is that the funds would be disbursed on a monthly basis or depending on the needs of the operations. We can also finance the legal fees where required through the loan funds. The real estate is the collateral that is preferred at all times, and where it's not feasible, we can also accept third-party guarantee and promissory notes for loans up to $20,000. Above $20,000 up to $100,000, then we can do a combination of bill of sale on chattels, insurance assignments, hypothecation of fixed deposits, third-party guarantees, and promissory notes. Above $100,000, then we look at real estate for a minimum of 1-to-1 ratio. For a second mortgage to be considered, then the real estate would have to be 1 to 150 ratio, with a written consent required from the other financial institution that holds the first mortgage. So how to access or apply for this? We encourage everyone to use our website and use the portal that is available under the DFC Tourism Industry Working Capital section, and that's available at dfcbelize.org. What is needed to apply? So if you're applying as a business or a company, we need IDs for all the majority shareholders, directors, utility bills that are not older than 3 months in the company or the major shareholder's name, or some type of endorsement to confirm the residence. Alternatively, we can also use a bank statement showing the address of the board and also a statement of affairs of the borrowers. If the borrower has a 50,000 plus loan, then a bank statement showing loan that is service timely to see the history of repayment. A registered company, well, of course, the company documents that include certificate of incorporation, memorandum and articles of association, a copy of last year's statutory return, certificate of good standing, certificate of compliance, a resolution of the company to incur liability, and or a pledge collateral with duly authorized signatories. Financial information that is related to the business, preferably audited financials for the last 3 years, or business bank statements for at least 1 year, and the loan statements, as I previously mentioned, business tax and BTB accommodation records. The project information, what the details of the loan funds will be used for, copy of licenses, permits required for the business, etc. The particulars of the security that are being offered for the loan. So we need copy of the land documents, the location map, land tax statements, meaning your property taxes paid up to date, property valuation if you have one already. If not, then the due process that DFC takes is that we would undertake that as well. So in addition to the tourism sector, we also be able to provide funds for the productive sector in terms of agriculture, livestock, manufacturing, commercial fishing, other professional services, the construction industry, transportation, etc. We also provide home financing, and home financing also entails where we can lend for a borrower to purchase the land and then build equity by paying down towards this land ownership, and then coming back to finance to build the house or build the property. We allow up to 7 years for you to purchase the land and build the equity, and then thereafter borrow to build the house or the dream house that you envision. We also offer renewable energy and energy efficient loans, and these are also at a great 6% rate at the reducing balance. So again, all this information can be found on our website. The requirements and what it will take for you to qualify for these loans. Education loans, which also is one of our big sectors, and I must say contributes greatly to our Belizean youth and our economy on a whole, is the education loans. And education loans can be from sixth form to a bachelor's degree, to a master's degree, to a doctor's degree as well. The interest on the reducing balance, like I mentioned, on the different sectors, of course, carry the different rates. So for instance, in a productive sector, a normal loan would range between 9.75% to 13%. Like I said, the REE loans are 6%. Home loans, residential mortgages, 8 to 12 to 11, and the education loans are also 10% to 12%. Although we also have a special education loan program for families that don't really fit into the criteria that is set out, and under certain criteria, for instance, the annual family income, and not being able to provide collateral, then we would be able to look at it under a special education program. So more information, as I mentioned, can be obtained at our website, dfcbelize.org. And we strongly urge and ask that anyone interested in applying for one of the working capital loans do so through our portal. Try to input as much information as you can, because it helps the credit officers, once they receive it, to act on it and be able to start the process quickly. it also minimizes the back and forth between the DFC and the client in trying to obtain information. So if you can, if you're interested and want to see how we can help, then let us help you by submitting through the portal as well. As a note of interest, please note that we would require for this program any submission up to by the end of the year, September 2nd, 2020. But of course, if there's any pending information after that date, once you've submitted before, then we would still consider. Below, also here are our contact numbers for all the branches that we have across the country. San Pedro, well, is currently closed right now, but the number listed here goes directly to the officer in charge, and then the different branches. For those clients in Toledo or in Punta Gorda town, we also can service them through the Dangriga branch. And that's my presentation. If there are any questions, it can be considered now, or I guess after all other presentations are done.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Cansino, for your presentation. We're going to hold the question and answer period until the end of the session, because what we will do is we will open up the floor to discussions with the Minister, Mr. Ted, and Ms. Natalie, so they will be able to answer any questions that you have. In the meantime, please feel free to utilize the chat box, which is on the right-hand side of the window. And you can type your comments there, and these will be addressed during the session. Okay, now we're going to have Ms. Sheryl Anderson from Quality Systems and Solutions and Initiatives. All right, now I'm very fond of Ms. Sheryl. Ms. Sheryl is actually an ISO guru, a certification guru, and what she's going to be doing for us today is commenting on the gold standard, which I know is of concern to several people who are here. She can introduce herself. She's very good at introducing herself. But what she will highlight is the necessity for all business owners to conduct risk assessments and risk management plans, especially for the pandemic. And she will touch on the standards. So thank you so much, Ms. Sheryl, for being here.
Thank you very much, Simone. I'm really happy to be here. I'm tuning in live from Jamaica, and one of the only parts of virtual is that I'm not there to enjoy Belize. I'm always in Belize. I've been to Belize over 20 times, and I consider Belize my second home. Until I get my husband to move there. But what I'm going to look at today is looking at risk management and why you should have it in your business. I'm just going to touch on it for a little bit in terms of letting you understand the different aspects of risk management. And this is just a small taste of what risk management is, because risk management is actually a structured program which every organization should have. Just to let you know who we are from QSSI, Quality Systems, Solutions and Initiatives, and we help companies to get to ISO 9001 and also help with international food safety standards such as HACCP, SQF, as in Safe Quality Foods, etc. And we offer other internationally certified training in root cause analysis, risk management, and other quality tools. We also audit different organizations to different standards. I'm also happy to let you know that we were also a big part of the implementation of ISO 9001 for your two institutions in Belize, which is the Bureau Standards Jamaica, and also we worked with Abil and his team from the Ministry of Tourism. So it's really good to be here to share with you. And we're going to be looking at risk as synopsis. We know that risk is an uncertain event, it exists in the future. It has a cause and it has an effect. But one of the things I really want you to understand is that it impacts on your overall objectives. And I want you to just remember that part. It is not just risk, any type of risk you're going to look at. You're going to look at how that particular risk actually impact on your own objectives. So it's not every single risk you should consider. You should consider it only within the context of your objective. Now, risk, it can be positive or it can be negative. And as I said before, the whole definition is the effect of uncertainty on your objective. What I want you to understand about risk, you can actually lay out some plans as all of us did this year, but there's a possibility, there's a probability that it will not go according to plan. But how do you pivot when it does not go according to plan? One of the things I want you to understand with risk though, risk is actually a neutral term. But most times we look at risk as negative. Risk, it can either be a threat when it is negative, or it can be positive when it's an opportunity. So therefore, we will consider the pandemic to actually be a neutral term. However, the pandemic is a threat to most persons because it can cause something bad. You can be sick, and obviously it has caused a severe impact on several businesses. However, I don't know if you know this, that the pandemic is actually an opportunity for some businesses, where it's an opportunity for companies that make sanitizers, or you have it as an opportunity for people who are doing a lot of food manufacturing. We don't look at it that way because it is a threat or it is negative to us. A hurricane might be a threat, can be considered a risk, but it is a threat to the banana industry or the tourism industry, but it is an opportunity. As bad as it sounds, it is an opportunity for the building or the companies that sell building materials. So I want to look at risk as a neutral term and make sure that we understand that there are some positive outcomes as it relates to risk, and there's a negative issue when it is when it is considered a threat. But let us look at it in the terms that it is a threat itself, because we are dealing with this threat, and how do we conduct or put in a structured risk management program to actually deal with the different types of risks that we are facing. I want you to understand that risk itself is very structured in its approach. It is a coordinated set of activities to direct and control an organization with regards to risk. So in essence, we're not going to run up and down and put our hands in the air and flail just because something is happening. How do we manage this threat? We cannot just sit and say, okay, the threat is out there, I am not going to deal with it. There has to be some coordination in how we deal with all sorts of risks that we may face, whether it is a threat or whether it is an opportunity. So it's a set of activities that an organization intentionally undertake to understand the characteristics of these risks and reduce the effects of these risks. So we encourage everybody to have an effective risk management program in order for you to improve your ability as an organization to meet your objectives, whatever your objectives may be. So you may have had a set of objectives in January. You now have to sit and say, now that this threat has happened, I now have to change my objectives. I may have to change my financial objectives, for instance. And based on the change of these financial objectives, I still have to manage those risks and how it can affect these new objectives. However, I want you to do a self-assessment to determine what your attitude towards risk is. Are you risk aware, risk averse? Are you a risk taker, or are you risk oblivious? I don't want you to be a gopher when you don't know what is out there and you don't care and you prefer to stay underground. We want to stay in quarantine and we don't want to face what is really happening now. Are you a cowboy though, where you can flout the rules and say, I can do what I feel like and I don't care what will happen? Or are you a settler where you know that there are risks out there, but you don't want to chance anything at this time? And I can't blame persons to be in this sort of mode, because I want to be as conservative as possible with the little that I have. Or will you be in that final quadrant where you are a pioneer, where you understand the risks, you examine the characteristics of all these risks, and take chances, but you stay within control? So what we want most persons to be is being in that fourth quadrant where you are a pioneer as it relates to risks. We don't want you to be running around and being a firefighter. We know that there's a threat happening, but I know there are lots of fires to out, but there has to be a time when you sit and you breathe and say, how do I prevent the mountain of problems that is coming my way? Because if I continue to ignore it, it is just going to be like an avalanche where it gets bigger and bigger. But you just have to know, from a risk management point of view, understand what these threats are and put a structured program in place to make sure that we are mitigating or actually treating these risks. So what I want to do is just to introduce you to this structured program in a nutshell. We have to first have a mindset of risk-based thinking and not a firefighter thinking, where we subconsciously start to think about preventive action and not corrective action, because corrective action actually costs 12 times as much as preventive action. So after you have looked at this risk-based thinking, this is a summary of your risk management steps. First of all, I want you to understand or establish the context. Know that there are different types of risk. There are internal risks and there are external risks. Now, when we talk about these internal risks, we're talking about governance issues. We're talking about operational issues. We're talking about people issues as well. When we look at external risk, we're talking about the political scene, what is happening in the environment, what is happening in the economy right now. So you want to understand all of these factors and then determine what these risks are. So we now go into the risk assessment section where we actually identify the risk. What can possibly happen? Now that there are increasing spikes, what can possibly happen during this time? What will possibly happen during post-COVID? We want to understand all the characteristics. When will the risk occur? Where will the risk occur? And how will these risks occur? After we have identified all of these risks that, remember, that affect our own strategic objectives, whether it is a financial objective or not, you're going to determine what those risks are to your objectives. And remember, I said threats are opportunities to your business. Analyze them by determining what are the probability and what is the likely consequence of these risks. After we have done that analysis, we now evaluate these risks, determine which are the biggest risks to our organization, and then afterwards, we will treat those risks and come up with possible options. So let us go in more detail. Now, risk is a part of our, and we're going to look at risk more looking at what is happening now and think about it from a disaster recovery point of view. Now, when we look at what is happening to our industry right now, it is basically almost like a national disaster and it should be declared. But how do we recover from this disaster? Do we curl up and die? Do we temporarily close, or do we put some measures in place? Do we pivot, for instance? What is it that we need to do in order to ensure what you call business continuity? Now, business continuity is what happens after a, let me put quote unquote, disaster. Now, one of the first things we have to do as part of our business continuity is to first do that risk assessment. What is the risk of COVID right now, the economic fallout right now on my business? When I've done that risk assessment, I am now going to do that business impact analysis to determine the level to which it's going to impact my business. Then I'm going to now design or select a strategy that I'm now going to put in place and execute that strategy. So you have to come up with a plan, and it has to be a very structured plan. So sometimes you find that we do things a little bit ad hoc, and it's not following any sort of sequence. What risk management allows us to do is to have a more structured approach to the implementation of our risk management plan. And then once we implement this plan, we continue to measure and make sure that we test and integrate it within our system. And if you notice that this is a cycle, you continue again, because there are always going to be risks. And when I say risk, there are always going to be threats, and there are always going to be opportunities. So you have to continue, and that cycle continues again with the risk management process. So back to the summary itself. This is what the risk management looks like. One of the things that you have to do, as I said before, you have to monitor and you have to review though how your risk management plan is being implemented. On the left-hand side, you can see this part about communicate and consult. There are other persons within the industry. There are persons who are better than us. There are persons within your own organization as well. You're consulting your financial manager. Communicate and consult and get a feel of what people are thinking, because the best mousetrap doesn't have to be something that you come up with, but it could be something that someone else has come up with. So you want to make sure that that risk management plan is put into place. So going through it in a structured fashion, the steps in risk management process include determining what are the factors that affect my objectives. You can look at your political risks, if there are any. What are the economic risks? What are the sociocultural risks, technological, environmental risks, legal risks to my business? What are my market risks? And what are my credit risks? Because there are some persons now, and most businesses too, may have entered into some credit arrangement. What are the risks associated with that, and what type of mitigation actions am I going to put in place? And also, who do I consult to make sure that I have the right mitigation strategies? And what I want you to understand though, these are not just local issues, these are national issues, regional issues, and you have to look at it from all of those perspectives: local, national, regional, and from an international perspective. Because what you may find though is that you may find that your competition may increase because of scarce resources, which are tourists, and there are a lot of countries that are competing for the same pie. So you also have to look at it from an international perspective as well. Even though you're looking outward, you still have to look outward, because based on my experience over about 15 years of doing this, what I have found that the most significant risks are what happens internally. So you have to look at it from a governance point of view, the people who are managing the organization, the people who are a part of the organization in terms of the line managers, the people who are working for you, they can also be threats and opportunities. Information flow can be a threat. The decision-making process can be a threat. Even your own culture, the organization culture, can actually be a threat to the organization. So I want you to understand in both contexts, the external as well as the internal context. So all of these elements has to be examined to see which one of them are risks or threats or opportunities to the organization. After you have determined the different contexts, you now identify those risks. Once you have identified those risks, there are many ways in which you can actually identify those risks. There are different identification tools, such as brainstorming. You can use your SWOT analysis. You can actually do interviews, for instance, questionnaires. You can interview experts. You can audit, you can inspect. There are different ways you can actually identify risk. Lessons learned, for instance, and it doesn't have to be your lessons learned, but you can also lessons learned from other persons within that space. Once you have done that risk identification, there is now risk analysis, and risk is equal to likelihood times the consequence. So what is the likelihood of something happening, and what is the impact if it happens? That is what risk analysis is. So once you have determined what the probability is and what the impact is, there's this risk matrix that is before you that will determine whether or not it is a high risk. So you can say, what is the probability that a particular issue will happen, and what is going to be the impact on my organization? Will it fall into the red zone? Will it fall into the yellow zone? And will it fall into the low risk zone, which is the green zone? Anything that falls into that red zone has to have your immediate attention and your immediate effort. Why? Because it may have a significant effect on your overall objectives. And when we look at probability, you can look at it from, it can be either very low, you can look at it from a percentage point of view. It is really up to you. Or when we look at impact, it could be based on how it's going to affect your budget, how it's going to affect your sales. Is it going to impact your sales medium, or which will be 10 to 30%, or will it be very high, where it will impact your sales by 75%. So if you want to get a little bit more specific, you can use different types of frameworks. So the question, one question, let me give you an example. What is the likelihood that COVID-19 will persist to December 2021 tourist season? And the question, what is the impact on my boutique hotel? So in the first slide, I'm looking at the likelihood, for instance, what is the likelihood that it will persist until right into 2021? I am a little bit more pessimistic. I have put, when they did the questionnaire, I put 2022. So what is the likelihood that COVID-19 will persist, and what is the impact on my resort? So once you have determined that, to say, okay, is it in the red zone, you are now going to say, what are my response strategies to deal with those risks? And this is not something that that is just to think about and talk about. This is something that you want documented and discussed as a group. You have to now sit down and take a breather and now go through this in a very rational sense. So yeah, I want you to ensure though that even though they may seem, you may only see the threats, what are the opportunities that exist? We may not be seeing it now, but by consulting different experts, whether locally, nationally, or in different countries, there may be some opportunities that exist. But the question is, now that I know what the threats are, now I know what the opportunities are, now that I know what the risks are, how do I go ahead and treat these risks? There are 6 ways that you can treat a risk. You can avoid the risk. So you have risk avoidance. In other words, I will not go ahead with this business, because if I go ahead with this business, all of my assets will be wiped out. So I can actually avoid the business completely, because I know that there are several companies in Jamaica right now where what they are doing at the Company Office of Jamaica, they are having a lot of seminars, webinars on how to close a business. Or it's not about closing a business only, but can I go into a different area? So I'm not going to be in this area, say for instance, I'm not going to cater to certain customers, but I will cater to another set of customers. So it is not about just avoiding the business only, but maybe avoiding a certain sector or a certain area or a certain section. I can also increase my risk as well. In the banks, there are some financial institutions, for instance, that may reduce certain restrictions in order to increase their risk. The reason why they may increase their risk because they may have an increase in the number of loans. So what you find, sometimes you find that financial institutions, they have so many restrictions, but what you find with some banks or some financial institutions, they are taking off some of these restrictions. They know that there's an increase in risk. However, if they reduce some of these risks, they are going to increase the number of loans that they get. And because they can increase the number of loans, they increase the sales themselves, but they will still try to guard against the risk in some other way, or they will accept that there is an increased risk. So what you find nowadays, that there are certain financial institutions, and I encourage them to do it, is these are extraordinary times. You may have to just increase your risk in order to get an increase in the number of requests for loans. You can remove the risk itself. That is another option. You can actually change the likelihood, or you can change the impact of the risk, which is number 4, which is called risk changing or risk modification. There's also insurance, where you can actually share the risk or transfer the risk, which is a 5th option. So risk sharing means that I find somebody who is better than me at managing a risk, so I'm handing it over to them. So that is why we pay insurance. Or we can just accept the risk, so we can retain that risk and keep it and monitor it, etc. Irrespective of whatever mitigation actions or whatever treatment options you put in place, you have to put in adequate risk. You have to put enough risk to manage, to enhance the performance of the business. When I talk about enhance the performance, is increase the likelihood of you attaining your objectives. But you don't want to be ignorant of the risks. And you don't want to have too many controls. So just to wrap up, we just want you to make sure that you consider the next steps, where you put in an effective plan. So I want you to think about the right strategy of doing things right, as well as doing the right things, and have a brilliant plan where you effectively execute and you efficiently execute. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Sheryl, for your presentation on risk. And Sheryl's information is posted on the screen, so you'd be able to contact Sheryl if you want her assistance as well. Thank you so much. We are now going to go to Dr. Leroy Almendarez from Beltraide. He's going to present along with Dr. Carla Barnett, who is our Minister of State in Labor, Local Government, and Rural Development. All right, so stay tuned for this presentation.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Minister. Minister Barnett. I'm sorry. I also want to say good afternoon to Mr. Ted Tejada, I believe is the president, and other presenters. And of course, the BHA members. And I was listening to the conversation just now, and that's one of the things I've been selling, that COVID has created its own opportunities. And so you might not have a TO strategy. Okay, I think somebody's mic is... Okay, I believe the slides are being advanced by the... So if we could advance the slides. It's a real pleasure being here to participate in this webinar. And I trust that the information that we'll be giving will not only last just for this conversation, but will go beyond this as we continue to work together in order to not only mitigate, but to find ways in which to best survive and live with this new threat called COVID-19. No, okay. So I thought that we could do this based on a synopsis of what I got. Just to quickly talk about what Beltraide is about. I mean, many have heard about Beltraide, and I think sometimes there are some misconceptions as well. So I thought I could mention briefly about because within Beltraide, it's its own ecosystem. Beltraide is now celebrating 20 years. It started off as TIPS, Trade and Investment Promotion, but there was some visionary who thought that at some point in time, there would be a need to bring so many functional areas together in order to meet comprehensively some of the needs that are out there. And then, of course, we will look at some of the current support programs. For example, the MSME support program, which it's something that we have been discussing. It just recently launched. It's really a stimulus at the second phase of the unemployment relief program. And I'm sure that Minister Barnett will say more about that as well. And then, of course, there are some programs that we can still talk about from which members of the BHA can still benefit from. Our fiscal incentive program, and then we also have designated processing areas. And we recently introduced over a year ago what is called the MSME Enhancement Program. And this is a program that basically provides, as an incentive for enterprises to bring in packaging and labeling materials. And then, of course, talking about some of the current and upcoming initiatives. So I thought this would be the outline that we could use. Go to the next slide, please. And if we could just, go to the next slide, because that's just that's the heading. So here are our 4 functional areas. And as I said, Beltraide is now celebrating, 20 years. And and believe me, it has transitioned, and of course, transitioned legislatively as well, because there have been amendments to the legislation to incorporate in terms of the functions. The investment generation, so one of the things we do have priority areas such as tourism. We know that tourism has been very hard hit. Tourism, agriculture and agro-processing, light manufacturing, renewable energy. I know that Armin mentioned that, and of course we have a pretty close relationship with the DFC. We also have a skills tree. And then of course, it's not only generating the investment, but also we provide support after, throughout the process until it gets to our cabinet where, the Belize's cabinet, where a decision is made in terms of whether fiscal incentive is offered. We offer skills training, and these skills training are based on demand. As a matter of fact, we have now, since we diversified and transitioned a lot in terms of virtually, a number of our trainings, our team here, where I'm sitting presently at the training center. And what has happened is that there has been that conversion to offer virtual training. We're presently working with the business processing centers. We recently did some with the Chamber of Commerce. And then we have enterprise development. In 2012, Belize established its MSME policy. And through this, and I'm going to use this word, and I said I use it all the time, it spawned the Small Business Development Center. And so we provide business support, business advising, financial management, guiding you through processes from conceptualization, helping you to study the market and creation of business plans. Then we also have trade promotion and export development. So throughout this ecosystem, a micro enterprise wanting to transition through that ecosystem reaches the point where it's export ready. That advice, we help you with standard operating procedures and and information like that, trying to find out what are those market entry requirements. All of those things we do for you. So you would see that just in a quick synopsis, what Beltraide is all about. Next slide, please. So Belize Invest, what we do, as I mentioned, we maximize local and foreign investment opportunities. And in some cases, of course, we're not traveling, we're not physically traveling, but we're virtually traveling at this time. And so that connection is still established where, we had our potential investors. As a matter of fact, let me say our fund here as well. In order to streamline and make doing business much easier, we are now finalizing what is called our National Investment Policy and Strategy. And that is fully incorporated, it's comprehensive. It will go through and continue to go through broad consultation because you want the input. We also want to consolidate the fragments of investment policies that may have existed. And so that's what we're working on. And we hope that, really that will help because of the vast consultation. It will assist in reducing some of the challenges we have, which gives us some of those very low scores when it comes to doing business. And so, really enhancing Belize's competitiveness, facilitating inbound site visits. We have been doing that. We can't do any of them physically now, but again, this is something we're working on virtually because we have so many international partners. Providing establishment, compliance guidance, and investment packaging support. So we do provide support. Anyone interested in investing can call our offices, get whatever information is required. And we do hand-holding virtually, of course, at this point in time to take you through the processes, to take you through, because in many cases it does involve, almost an assembly line of different entities in order for the application to move. So we work very closely with those other entities to ensure that these things move as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. And these are just some pictures, really some of the things that have happened. One of them has to do with one of the inbound missions. We were talking about our National Investment Policy and Strategy. And these are some of our team members. So we try to capture some of the information. Recently, last year, we made a visit to Taiwan. And that's when we started, of course, some of the discussions, again, to enhance business when it comes to trade and the establishment of an economic partnership agreement with Taiwan. So these are just some of the pictures. So if you can advance. And then Export Belize. Export Belize, one of the things we have out presently, and tied to that, because we also have a marketing arm, where presently what we're doing, we are also looking at a full promotion of Buy in Belize, because we're looking at this point in time in creating domestic economic activity. Our borders are closed, the airport is closed, but really, and again, I reiterate what the previous presenter said. And Minister Barnett and I have been harping on this as well. Opportunities have been created. You don't have a TO strategy, but you can convert threats into opportunities. And so we have seen that, and it's not only sanitizer, but masks and other things that people have found the supply chains, disrupted supply chains, because the international ones might have been, some challenges there, but creating their own domestic supply chains. So we enhance the competitiveness of Belize's products, finding out what are those requirements. We meet with these entities and we discuss with them in order to get them export ready. Also, we facilitate inbound site visits and trade missions, and we provide export business development guidance and research support. All of that is, is something that we do. We provide that, and we have a list of clients that we work with, and our clients in many cases are across the ecosystem of Beltraide. And again, this is just a picture here because one of the big thing, and one of the things that I really want to sing a song to is the fact that we have now developed a seaweed industry. And so this was a picture that was taken. We were down there, we were with the farms and with the farmers. And one of the things I'd like to boast is the fact that there's a women's group. You know, those groups that were once considered disenfranchised, you know, women and youth. But here is a case where this is all embracing. As a matter of fact, they are part of the working group. We have some of the best species of seaweed, and the value added that, you know, really when it comes to the number of products, whether consumable or otherwise, that you can get from the seaweed. As a matter of fact, we now have seaweed ice cream by Western Dairies, and we have, you know, so many. I remember, you know, we had seaweed powder buns and all of these different things. So here are opportunities that we have to look at, especially when we might think about, you know, how do we make up for these economic gaps that exist. And so, like I said, some of the best species, we are increasing our output. We get some of the best prices for our seaweed. We have started to export, but of course, meeting quota and of course the challenges that we now face. But still, it's an industry that will continue to grow. We work very closely with the Nature Conservancy and others, because again, it's only cohesively and together we can get this done. Okay, next, please. And then our Small Business Development Center, we can boast over 1,000 micro, small, and medium enterprises. And so, you know, we customize needs-based services to micro, small. We help them to, again, you know, business plans, like I said, advising. We visit them where they are. We help them to enhance their products. We work very closely with entities from across the country. And it's not only, you know, it was primarily face-to-face visits, but of course now it's more virtually again. But it does not mean that we did not find a way. When the risk increased, we turn that into opportunities, and we have been able to maintain those contacts with our client base. And so we want to, one of the things the thing we spell out is innovation and creativity, because we must understand that, you know, really, even when you look at a market reaches saturation point, there is a time to get out. And if you look at the strategy, one must create its path, and that happens through creativity. And we help you with diversification and all of that. We facilitate public and private partnerships. And of course, we've been having a lot of these webinars. You know, we transitioned to webinars from March because we know we still had to be in contact, and we had international presenters and things like that. So next slide, please. And these are just some pictures. This, what we have on a yearly basis, we have what is called a hackathon, where those creative minds develop applications. We have partnered with the IDB. As a matter of fact, we just finished one where we had some app development, change the story. Again, you know, really just to go through that transition process in terms of converting manual processes, because there are so many processes that, you know, we can convert and find, use technology and find virtual ways in which to achieve those. And I must say, the creativity of our young people. This is what is called Entrecon. We do it on a yearly basis, where we bring in over 200 entrepreneurs from across the country. And you'd be surprised at the level of creativity, you know, that is displayed by our young, not only young people, because innovation does not lie only the young. I mean, it's up to the mind. And so here again is just a display of some of those things. And then our Training and Employment Center. This is now, it's now 5 years old. At first it was a, you know, three-headed approach, and then, you know, the quadruped was added. So, and if they hear me, they might get upset with me because I said that, but it's said in a good way. And so what happens again, you know, we felt that, okay, we could provide the training as well rather than outsourcing it. So we have developed in our facilitators and creating the diversity as well, because the skill sets, the needs that are out there are great. And so that is something that we've been working on, and we assist the business sector to fulfill employment demands. As a matter of fact, all our trainees, they already were working. They just need the enhanced skills, whether it was soft skills or otherwise. And they're immediately re-employable or just employed because they were sent for training. But in any event, like I said, we have now partnered with some of the BPOs, for example, And we're going to be delivering training because they want to expand. And so that is another big thing for us. And like I said, because it's based on demand, then it means we're not just training for churning out numbers, but the fact that they are easily reabsorbed into the workforce. And again, these are just some pictures from the training. We usually have a certificate session where we recognize, because really they put in so much hard work, and that's a day for us to recognize them. And so we do that, and we give them a certificate of completion. And really think about the fact that a mine could have been wasted, but here, knowledge is built, and so basically pushes out whatever negative energy that might exist. And so we do this quite a lot. And then some of our current support programs. We know for a fact, because this is the Belize Hotel Association, we wanted to cater, make that pivot in the conversation. And so here are some of our current programs. Let me just quickly say this here, and I'll summarize this in a few sentences. In terms of looking at economic recovery, we felt that it was important for us, but not only that, there was a national emphasis on economic recovery. And being a part of, as a statutory body under the Ministry of Investment, Trade and Commerce, we thought it necessary to really find out, what's the true impact. And so we put out a survey sometime in April, and what we found out, and believe me, what we found out, as small as the sample may be that we got, over 150 or 160 respondents, 54% of them were micros, they were really hurting. 83% of them were micro, small, and medium enterprises, and 17% were larger enterprises. And it tells us that some of them, the action that they had to take was reduction of employment. In some cases, they had to close. And they mention specifically what are some of the things that they believe they could be assisted with in order for their own survivability. And so transitioning not only out of this, partnering with the Ministry of Labor through the Minister Barnett, and this is how that. And so if you go to the next slide, I believe I've summarized that. This program, this MSME support program, which is really a component of the second phase of the unemployment relief program. And so Dr. Barnett and I have been really discussing this, because we know that many are hurting. I know Minister Barnett will tell you how many people have applied for that facility, the unemployment relief. And in the case of the MSME support program, quite a number have applied as well. One of the things we saw, of course, was the loan component. But I must emphasize that on Monday, it was on Monday, yes, it was on Monday, the 25th, that there was a second call, and I trust that everybody saw the press release. There's a second call, and there will be a closure of the second call at midnight on August 31st. But let me just quickly go through this. If you could just go to the next slide. So what is the MSME support program? It's really a government of these programs, and it's important to emphasize this, because I've been asked several times if it's a Beltraide program. No, Beltraide is a component or a part of the coordinating committee that was established. And part of our role is to provide administrative support. But it's not really a Beltraide program. It's government finances that will be disbursed to approved applicants. And so it will cater to micro, small, and medium enterprises. Now, the qualifiers that we use, micros in this case, 2 to 4 employees, including the owner, because there's a component under the unemployment relief that says if you're self-employed, you can apply under that component. And here, so we're saying micros 2 to 4 employees, and small 5 to 20, and medium 21 to 51. It's really 21 to 51 employees. Okay, so you see that it caters from 2 to 51. and a number of enterprises that I'm sure were my small and medium, where they would fit under the BHA. But those are, and the reason why we are not specifying the other parameters, like level of sales, size of building, etc., because the denominator of that program is retention of employees. And that's one of the big things that we've been focused on. You know, really, even the use of funds, retention of employees, eligibility criteria. Yes, it's within those industries that were mostly affected by COVID-19, but retention of funds, retention of employees, you know, we talk about working capital. And I also saw that in Armin's presentation. So you will see that in some cases, in a simplified manner, it kind of resembles, except that this is not collateralized. The loans are not collateralized. So if you go to the other screen, so these are the components. The full component of the MSME support program is 14.5 million with 2.5 for grants. And each grant, each enterprise that's approved gets 2,500. There's a wage subsidy. And the main focus, or the qualifier here, is really employee retention. And how does that work? It works in this way where we're asking employers, you know, to keep employees' social security contributions up to date, because we know for a fact that's a very important aspect of it. In terms of the rest and how it's configured, it's similar to in terms of financial distribution, it's similar to how the unemployment relief program works. But in this case, again, retention of employee, that's the thing that we continue to focus on. Then there's a 5 million soft loan, and this soft loan is primarily for small and medium enterprises and if we notice, we put up to 15,000 you can apply. And the reason why we do that is because some have said, we don't want 15,000, we want less. We don't want 25,000, we want less. The grants, those who apply for a grant can also apply for wage subsidy. Those who apply for these loans, small and medium, can also apply for the wage subsidy. So, you know, in essence, you know, it's really intended to create stimulus. Working capital, it can be used for working capital. If you want to diversify, to put in those health protocols to mitigate against COVID-19, to pay off existing debts. Those are some of the, you know, really the main uses. And of course, Beltraide will provide that administrative support, that training support, providing the guidance, you know, because you'd have had some kind of recovery. And if you have that some kind of recovery plan, then of course we could provide that kind of assistance with you. And remember, nothing is wrong with changing your strategy, because pivoting will continue to happen. If your core competence is saying the market doesn't want that, there has to be some kind of pivoting towards what the market is dictating to you. And that is why, as the previous presenter mentioned, there's so many who are benefiting because they have taken advantage of these opportunities rather than steering it as just as a capital T. Next slide, please. And these, of course, as I was mentioning, you know, what the funds can be used for. Retention of employees, financing of working capital, because we know you need raw materials. You know, like I said, we have entities here who have said, I just disrupted the supply chain and I'm surviving. Others have created their own supply chain because really they have pivoted to, you know, even though it has to do with food, but they have found their supply chain is from existing businesses. And that's where they're getting their inputs from. And that circular flow is creating a great level of economic activity. Okay, for training and capacity building, and as I mentioned, the COVID-19 health. And of course, you know, really many, I mentioned buying Belize before, but many are also looking at online platforms from which, you know, that's another avenue, especially with social distancing, and you know, and really the different measures that have been putting on because of the increased cases or number of cases of COVID, to reach your client base. And so we're assisting with that as well. Okay, next slide, please. And then you have, you say, what are the eligibility criteria? If for some reason this one got a bit jumbled up, But as I had mentioned, these are the areas, because from our survey, from other surveys, tourism, transportation, agriculture, agro-processing, fisheries, light manufacturing, creative and cultural industries, and commercial free zones, but there's a carve out for commercial free zone because they can only apply for the wage subsidy. And there's a similar line there to what Armin had mentioned with the whole 51% Belizean ownership. It simply means we need your articles of association and, in cases where such an entity would apply. Next slide, please. And then how to apply. We have those are our numbers. I mean, the website is www.covid19.Belize/BelizeMSP. That's a 0800 number. Someone is always there. Someone is always, well, not 24/7, but someone answers that phone. We also have a cell phone, and this email address is pretty much 24/7. Okay, this email address is an email address. You email and you will get a response as quickly as possible. Next slide, please. And then, of course, now just to transition to, I mentioned a fiscal incentive program. Really, it's a program aim to encourage genuine investment in Belize for both existing and prospective investors. And we are not talking, in this case, we're talking about FDI and LDI, local investment and foreign investment. We don't discourage, we don't crowd out local investments. I mean, we encourage local investments, and you'd find in our portfolio that there are local investors. What is the qualification? The company must be registered in Belize. Business activities must provide benefits to the economy of Belize. One of those benefits include employment. Okay, next, please. So what are the types of, you have small and medium enterprise. A business can be a natural legal person. You have a regular program where it must be incorporated into the laws of Belize. Investment must be no more than 300,000. Next slide, please. And then which sectors? You have handicraft, again, as broad-based as possible. Aquaculture, fisheries, healthcare, auto rental. And this presentation can be shared. So, but those are some of the sectors. And then, of course, what are eligible categories for customs duty? Because you do get customs duty exemption, building materials, fixtures and fittings, spare parts. What we get from you is a list of what is called a master list with some costing, and then we have to do benefit cost analysis to make that determination. That is one of the things that we request from you, but these are some of the eligible categories. Next slide, please. And then, of course, this is the step. Submission to Beltraide, application advanced to our ministry, to reviewed by cabinet, and cabinet makes a decision. So those are the 4 steps, and all of that can be completed within 60 days. Then we have the designated processing areas program, once referred to as EPZs, economic export processing zones, but because of challenges with the World Trade Organization and challenges by members of the World Trade Organization, the conversion took place to take out certain things that would have been considered detrimental or harmful. And so there was a transition to designated processing areas and taking out the focus on export from within the DPA. And there's a committee that sits on applications and make decisions. Then I mentioned the MSME Enhancement Program. Again, this you have to be formalized because you need a TIN number. That's your identifier. And we're tied into ASICUDA, the customs program, and through that you can access packaging and labeling materials. And just quickly, let me just go through some of these current and upcoming initiatives. We have the MSME support remediation. At this point in time, we're working on the remediation for some of those. The National Investment Policy and Strategy, we're launching our Invest Belize magazine, which we do on a yearly basis. But this time we'll do it virtually and we'll put it online. We have a national call for service providers because what we want is a cadre, to create a network that we can, really filter information through, but not only that, for sharing and gathering information, because, really, as many opinions as possible, development of a public sector investment focal point, that's from the ministries and private sector. investment incentive promotion webinars, updating our website, and of course, collaboration with our ministry in terms of economic recovery, etc. And then we have, we have a new webcast support called Make We Talk Business, where we bring in roundtable discussions and we bring in, experts from CARICOM and from within Belize as well. We have experts here too. Technology extension, promotion of Taiwan, virtual seafood and business meeting. Though we can't go there, we have partnered with TITRA, which is similar to Beltraide, and there's so many things that we can do because the embassy is also here. So these are some of the other things that we have. I mentioned seaweed before. There's a program called BIRF, and that's a program that will cater to providing support to entrepreneurs that are women and youth-led. That program is it's now signed off on, and so we should be getting the clients for those pretty soon. The Regional Cacao Project, and of course, Belize Export Diversification Project. It's on hold due to the pandemic, but those are just some things that are being done. Okay, next. And then under our Small Business Development Center, you notice all of them are engaged in the MSME support program because we want to see it as a success. Continue to provide services, training, and all of that. Really, we also have a female entrepreneurship program, which is a great success. We had 13 successful females. In fact, the last time I'm still trying to get some of them to sell on Amazon and other places because they're that good. They have found, again, inputs that people discard in some cases, like old tires, and make shoes. So, next. And of course, our training center. Like I said, we are now working very closely in developing some online programs and working very closely with the business processing outsourcing companies. I want to thank you. I trust that what I gave there was a synopsis of what we are about and how we are engaged. And as of course, we are a statutory body, but in terms of our network, that's one of the things that we boast, whether it's public or private within Belize or internationally. And so therefore, if there are any questions at any point in time, but first of all, I want to say thanks again for inviting me to be a part of your webinar. Thank you.
I would like to take this time to thank all the presenters here today, and also everyone here who attended the webinar. We will be now moving on to the question and answer section.
Hello, everyone. And so just to give you a small wrap up for the presentation, for all the hotels that are on site, what we need to understand that at this moment, there's not an opening date for the international airport as yet. We can see that there have been 34 hotels in the country of Belize who have certified for the gold standard. If the airport was to open in September, we would have only 5 international flights coming to Belize, only 5. Last year, Belize had an average of 110 to 115 international flights landing on a given month. So we are seeing, and we're going to see, that tourism for the country of Belize is not going to normalize anytime prior to March of next year. So that was very important for us to bring these parties, DFC and the MSME program, for one reason. Right now, we wanted to protect from the very beginning our employees. So far, Dr. Carla Barnett will advise you how many Belizeans have logged in and applied for the non-employment assistance. Why is it very important for all the hotels? You got to realize that's one thing that Dr. Almendarez did mention. In order for you to qualify for this 3 months assistant wage subsidy. What does it mean by a wage subsidy? That the government will help us
with the employees that you have retained $300 for the next 3 months, starting August 1st. So by you retaining an employee and paying Social Security and logging into the system, and it's very important for you to understand that you must do it no later than August 31st. So far, I believe that is more than 0.5% of the money that Leroy did mention is still available for this assistance. You must be 51% owned, Belizean-owned property that you can qualify. So the government will be helping us for the next 3 months. That is very critical for every hotel in Belize. If you do not qualify, this is where the DFC assistance comes into program. So far, they still have quite a bit of money to give away under a special discounted interest rate. They have up to September 1st, I believe. Second is when they will be processing these applications. So there's no opening date in September. The government of Belize have not advised any opening date. If the airport was to open in September, there is only 5 international flights that would arrive. We do not see, and we have the statistics of how many flights have logged in from today up to December 31st, 2020. And let me tell you, it's only about 15% of what we had 2019. So it doesn't matter if tourism restarts, let's say October 1st, their expectations of you reaching anywhere to 1/3 of your occupancy that you had in 2019 is not going to be there. So it was very important for us to bring this information to you, because at this point in time, we know that a lot of hotels are doing their budgets. We know that the Central Bank of Belize had only given us permission for 6 months moratorium on our loans. This is your time to go back to your bank and apply for an additional moratorium for not less than another 3 months. But again, the general manager of DSE, Ms. Natalie, is also here, who is going to assist in the processing of the loans for DFC. You must apply for September 2nd. Questions that we have, Dr. Carla Barnett is in the room as well for any questions that you might have concerning this assistance that the government of Belize is providing. Dr. Carla, anything that you would like to add?
Oh yes, there I am. Thank you very much, Ted. Let me say that we have been having quite a, as expected, strong response to the unemployment relief part of the rollout of the support that's available. I think right now we're upwards almost to 60,000 people who have applied because they are unemployed, and we're sorting through those. The applications for MSME support are actually processed entirely by Beltraide, and I know that they have a good team of support persons in Beltraide that have been helping people to fill out their forms. If you need help, do not be afraid to ask. If you're not understanding what the form is asking you to do, there are people in Beltraide who are there specifically to provide that help and support for you. So I encourage you to make use of that that facility that is there. I don't think Leroy talked about that enough, but that help in accessing the assistance is there. I want to encourage you to seek that assistance. From the unemployment relief point of view, we've been asking employers who have laid off people to provide us with the lists of employees that they have laid off, and let us know when you laid them off so we can be helpful to them. It helps us in sorting through and approving their applications, and many in the tourism sector have already provided that information to us, and so thank you very much for that, but we will be reaching out to a few others who we haven't heard from yet. So there you go. Thank you very much. Natalie?
Hello, are you hearing me now?
Yes, Ms. Goff.
Hello, are you hearing me?
Yes, Ms.
Okay.
Goff.
It's okay now?
Yes. Yes.
Good afternoon again, everybody. I just wanted to start with some of the measures that DFC undertook when we first heard about COVID. Immediately, we gathered together as management and we recognized what was happening in the tourism industry. And all those who had loans in the tourism industry directly were automatically given 9 months moratorium. And how did we arrive at this period? We recognized that there was a low season that was coming, and that even if tourism came back, even if the airport reopened, it would have been in the low season. And so we waited until we were hoping then by the high season, everything would have been in place. And that is how we came up with the 9 months. And we also looked at lower periods of recovery, shorter periods of recovery for other indirect players in the industry. As you know, so those people with hotel loans and things like that from DFC have their moratorium set up to, I think, up to October this year. But we have had to be extending moratoriums for other stakeholders in the industry. We also recognize the need for working capital, and for our existing loan recipients, we were able to approve a line of credit for them immediately. So they were able to access those loans from about April, May at 6%. So those were for existing customers. However, we recognize that there were other stakeholders in the industry who did not have access or may not have had access to working capital loans. And so in collaboration with the support from the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, we were able to secure financing through the Caribbean Development Bank and other lending agencies to come up with this $10 million line. That took a little bit longer, but now that is in place. We launched it on August the 3rd, and the end date that we have on September the 2nd is to establish the interest, because we were told maybe that the $10 million would not be enough. So if there was interest beyond the $10 million, we need to know and then work with that. Mr. Cansino, in his presentation, presented to you the requirements, who would qualify, and it complements what Beltraide is doing, because our loans are going, while Beltraide is more MSME, we are also catering to the larger establishments in the country. So that is what DFC is doing at this time. We are also, though, while we are taking care of the immediate needs, trying to look at what is needed in the future. And so we are at this time as we speak. I cannot speak about it because we're in negotiations, but we are at this time in negotiations with our lenders to see if we can get one, additional working capital, and two, maybe funds for restructuring, because we all know that even if tourism starts coming back, it will take a while. Some are saying 2022, 2023, and so loans may have to be restructured, even loans with other institutions. So we're looking to see DFC as a development bank plays a role when there's a crisis. It might be a little bit more cumbersome in accessing a loan because although we're a development bank, we have to adhere to the same requirements, all the AML requirements, anti-money laundering requirements that the other financial institutions have to adhere to. So we have to onboard that client first. And so it may seem cumbersome, but we have to provide reports to our lending agencies, and that's why the information gathering at the institution is important.
No sound. Okay, somebody turned me off here. Okay, are we on now? Yes. I was saying that under the unemployment relief program in phase 1, we had really prioritized the cruise sector, the tour operators, the tour guides, site staff, people who work at the various sites who did guiding, all of that. The specialist guides like zipliners, the bus drivers, all of those people were really at the top level of priority because that's where the crisis really hit the sector at the early start. Because that sector is not likely to begin, there's nothing happening there. It is probably correct to say that the whole matter of accessing support for employees as a wage subsidy and then paying the Social Security payment, it may just not be applicable. But all of your employees can apply for unemployment relief. We've had them apply as independents, those ones who are tour guides who are licensed, and then they provide services to you on the buses and take the tours out. And if you want to be helpful, if you're a tour operator, if you're a hotel and you have a tour section, send in that information to us as well. Most of them have applied again, and we're expecting that they will again be right at the top of the priority listing for support from the unemployment relief program.
Okay, there's a comment here about loans being band-aids, and to a certain extent they are. So if you don't have to get a loan, well, you know, that's good, but some persons, in order to maintain their properties, insurance is due. We are aiding the government in trying to retain employees, but the income is not coming in. So if you're in a good position and you don't have to get a loan, of course we will encourage you not to get a loan. But some persons are in need of financing because no income is coming in. And so we are there if you need a loan, but we are not encouraging people to get loans if they don't have to.
Thank you very much, Natalie. I think Great discussion. Okay, we have Dr. Carla will have one more question to answer here. We do want to emphasize that at this moment there are only about 38 hotels that have finished their gold standard certification. We were looking at the numbers just now. It's over 800 deletions that have been infected with this particular virus at this moment. Any hotel that is going to be operating going forward will need to finish their gold standard either for receiving Belizean guests or international guests. At this moment, there's 800 of us Belizeans infected. So anybody visiting your hotel could be positive, a positive situation. So it is, we're encouraging all the hotels, please make sure that you do your gold certification and start practicing what the gold standard advises us to do. I'll go ahead and pass the mic to Dr. Carla Barnett to explain one more thing here.
Yes, if I may, I saw a question come up asking why we limited the funding to MSMEs on the basis of the number of employees. Actually, that's a more simplified definition, limiting it only to the employees, because the standard that's applied internationally and even in the policy that we and implemented here in Belize, it was not only the number of employees, but the size of your business, the size of your company in terms of turnover, and that would have made it extremely cumbersome for us to implement something very quickly. So the decision that was taken was that we only use the part of the definition that referred to the number of employees, not to the income, not to the cost of operation, not to the size. There's a very complicated square footage definition of small, medium, and micro as well. And so we stayed away from that because the underlying philosophy is that this really is an emergency program. It's a support program in a time of what is effectively an economic disaster. So we're not implementing that as a developmental policy, so to speak. It's a relief and emergency response policy. So we simplified it in that way.
We do have a question here concerning employees that are working part-time and not being given the subsidy. The subsidy just started. That program has just been implemented. As a matter of fact, I don't think, Dr. Carla, that there's any hotel that has officially been approved. They're under the approval process. But definitely, once the hotel has applied, if you are working part-time with the hotel, remember, if you're working part-time, that business is paying Social Security on your behalf. If that hotel has applied for the subsidy, that hotel will be given $300 on your behalf in order to help to maintain or maybe able to give you more hours during these 3 months, which is August, September, and October. Again, we need to emphasize it's a 3 months program. We need to lobby and start working in the opening of the international airport so that when these 3 months are over, we can restart slowly starting to operate our businesses. Is there any more questions that we would like to answer before we wrap up everything here? Any questions that, Simon, that you see that we would need to take?
That last question from David Vidal is that I know you have to quarantine against that hotel if the guests are positive.
If the hotels are, if the guests are need to be quarantined, David, I will definitely, we're going to invite now BTB for the next webinar. There's still questions that need to be answered on that. I honestly will need to pose that question to BTB. We will get back to you on that. Right now on this particular topic is on the MSME program and the loans program that DFC is offering. but definitely I will get an answer for you this coming by Friday. Thank you very much. I would like to give all the participants and all our speakers as well. Thank you. We are going through difficult times. Remember, help your neighbor, help your employee, help whoever you can. Everyone is in need. We are all in this together. We are going to get over it. I'm telling you, tourism will come back. So how long does it take for the grants to be approved? Dr. Carla?
Okay. I know that the team that Beltraide has in place to do this are working, in fact, this afternoon. They have to go through all of the applicants because it's not a first come, first serve process. It's to ensure that the applicants are reviewed properly. I believe that it is going to be, I think, Leroy, or you need to confirm this for me, but you had said within 14 days of the close of the program, of the close of applications.
Hi, Minister. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me just check something.
Hi, yes, we're hearing you.
We do have the contact information for everyone that has logged in. So definitely we will be giving this information to Dr. Carla Barnett today. And at the end of this program, we will make sure that everyone that is logged in on this webinar, we have answered their questions, and not only that, but that we give that information to our minister here who can look at the applications. Natalie has also taken note of everyone that has applied for the loan. And I did see some questions where some individuals did mention that they had applied for the loan and had not gotten a response. Natalie has taken note of that, and we will be getting back to you early next week. Once again, I want to thank everyone, Dr. Carla Barnett, Natalie, and Leroy, Mr. Cansino, our risk assessment speaker, Sheryl, our staff from Believing.com, our staff from BHA for putting this together. Been a lot of work. It's been a good speaking to all of you guys. Thank you very much for another beautiful day, and I hope to see you soon. I don't like to do this via Zoom. I would prefer to do it together with you. But very soon we'll be together. Once again, enjoy the rest of the day. Have a nice day.
So I'd just like to thank all our presenters for that presentation. It was quite informative. If anyone has any follow-up questions in regards to the risk planning and financial recovery post-COVID-19, please feel free to get in touch with one of them. I also like to thank Simone from the Belize Hotel Association for co-hosting with me, and everyone else who found the time to log in and listen to our presentation today. Again, I'd like to encourage everyone to check out the Belize Travelcast. We have new episodes released every week, so you can listen to them on the BelizeTravelcast.com. If you are interested in sponsoring or advertising on the podcast, please feel free to email us at podcast@believing.com. So once again, thank you for joining this webinar session. If by chance you missed any part of the presentation, you can catch the replay that will be emailed to you later on. We hope to see you on our next webinar in September. I hope that you guys enjoy the rest of your day.
matter what industry you're in, energy runs your business and energy costs affect your bottom line. Investing in solar panels, solar water heaters, or LED lighting and other energy efficient appliances provides considerable cost savings for your business.
Here at Black Orchid Resort, we utilize a lot of energy. It became extremely helpful to us to be able to install solar panels thanks to the low interest loan from the DFC.
The Development Finance Corporation DFC is now offering loan financing for businesses to invest in renewable energy and energy efficiency. With an affordable interest rate of 6%, businesses can now save money and increase competitiveness by reducing long-term operational costs.
This has saved us at least 80% of our diesel costs, which is a big saving for us. We can now use that money to invest in other projects.
Contact DFC to find out how your business can start saving money by investing in renewable energy and energy efficient technologies today. DFC, giving power to our people. Apply today and save tomorrow.
Okay, first I wanted a song that would transcend, every aspect. That it didn't matter what part of the world you came from, you would be able to relate to this song. So that was one, and the next thing was finding a topic to sing about. What Danile means, this is our time, and our time to shine, to do great things, and. I said I wanted to sing about, everybody have them turn now, everybody have them day. Some of them really make much of it, while some make it slip away because a lot of times you have the opportunity to do something, but you put it aside. You want to wait till tomorrow. I'm going to do it tomorrow. I'm going to say time run up on you, can't get it done. So, and I also spoke about being a part of being on the Belizean music team. The team that our great Andy Palacio was on, great Paul Naber was on. Because a lot of people used to tell me after Andy passed, they say, why don't you be the lead vocalist for the collectives? I told them, with respect, I love what the collectives are doing. I love what Andy, because he's one of my idols, musical idols. I want to be on the, I want to walk in your footsteps, but in my own shoe. I want to be part of that team that took Belizean music or Garifuna music to the world, but I want to do it my way. I wouldn't want to walk in a size 14 shoe and I'm a size 12. It will be uncomfortable. So let me, yes, that's in the song. I want to walk in your footstep, but in my own shoe. I got me size 12 and I got some walking to do. I want to walk comfortable. I want to do what I do in a way that I won't regret doing it. So I want to be on the same team, but doing it my way. Not doing, yes. So I did it my way. I did it my style, but still as part of that Belizean team. Super G the General. Yo, I want to thank all my fans for watching my video over 1 million times on YouTube. Please tune into Belize Travel Cast to check out my interview on Belizean music.
Do you need custom rubber stamps for your business? Get yours in 1 hour from Gits Office Supplies. Choose from different sizes and colors. Order online today at www.gits.bz, home of the 1 hour stamps.
When it comes to your finances, peace of mind is invaluable. We need to be confident that our finances are safe and secure. Atlantic Bank's EMV cards, also known as chip and contactless cards, are designed to provide you the peace of mind you need. These cards have an embedded chip that generates a unique security code each time you perform a transaction, making it virtually impossible to counterfeit or copy your card. How to use your card. Using the chip and contactless card is easy, convenient, and secure. Instead of swiping your card, the chip and contactless card can be used in 2 ways. For chip transactions, insert your card into the POS terminal face up, chip first. Follow the prompts displayed on the POS terminal screen, remove your card from the POS terminal, and sign the receipt. Contactless transactions. Look for the contactless symbol at checkout. Tap your card on the POS terminal. Wait for the beep to confirm your payment and go. It's that convenient while still providing you with the safety and security you need. Atlantic Bank chip and contactless cards. 1 card, 2 ways to pay. Atlantic Bank, building the future together.
Do you need custom rubber stamps for your business? Get yours in 1 hour from Gits Office Supplies. Choose from different sizes and colors. Order online today at www.gits.bz, home of the 1 hour stamps.